All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in the winners semi-finals. One player will advance on to the winners finals, the qualifying match, and the other one will drop down to the losers bracket and have to play another grueling set of matches. But here we go, spawning down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Protoss player representing his new team and sponsor, Ting. Give it up for the literal god himself. He needs no introduction, but Neeb. And his opponent spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, the purple Terran player who has definitely won my heart since the couple of months before the beginning of Legacy of the Void. As one of my favorite Terran players out there, give it up for Team Gravity Semper. If I had to give Semper, I think I mentioned this before, if I had to give Semper a gift, like if I was going to give him like a thing to do a ceremony with, I would give him a stuffed medevac. You know what, I'm going to make this happen. Next event that I see him at, I don't know if I'm going for DreamHack Montreal. I probably am not, but if I do end up going, I'm going to order like a custom medevac plushie so he can do little ceremonies like driving around like, vroom, like when the camera goes to him and he wins a game. That's definitely going to happen. Because this guy loves his drops, in case you missed it. I think that, surprisingly enough, his match versus Huck didn't really showcase it as much, because he was playing so far on the defensive. It was a really cool adaptation by Huck to just say, like, okay, I felt like I could tell Huck was saying, I know the kind of player that Semper is, and I'm going to not let him play his game. Especially in the later two games, the last two games, game number 2 and game number 3, Huck was just like, I'm going to put on the aggression early on. I'm not going to let you get to that late game stage where you have the resources you need to start dropping me in all these different locations. I'm going to continuously keep you at home. But game number 1 is where we saw him in the late game stage really bring back the game with that drop press and pulling Huck out of position so many times. All right, but we do have Fast Tech up, of course, to Starport. Wouldn't have anything else from Semper. A man who, again, I keep hyping up those medevacs, that spirit animal for him. But Neeb, again, I say he's a player who needs no introduction, because most people just know Neeb is considered by a lot of people to be the strongest player in North America. And I kind of agree, but again, I put him on that top 5 list because Neeb has shown mortality. He's shown weakness in certain areas of his play. And I would say one of those areas that I've seen his weakness, like I've seen him lose to players like Epic. I've seen him lose, obviously he lost the finals of the DreamHack Austin event to Hydra. And I would say one of the things in this matchup that I feel like he's sometimes struggled with is a lot of the Widowmine drops. And I don't know if Semper's really going to go for that. He has gone for Widowmine drops in the past, but that is something I've seen Neeb take a strange amount of damage to very, very often. So if Semper decides to go for something like that, maybe some of that drop harassment, it can work out versus Neeb, but it's still going to be an uphill battle. I think that Neeb is still very much favored, and that's the scary thing. Neeb is just such a good player, and I think Katz put it really well. He's not just a ridiculously good player, he's continuing to get better at a ridiculously fast rate. So those kinds of things that I'm saying right now may not be applicable anymore. He may have already overcome those things just in a couple of weeks. Regardless, we do have a fairly fast third coming out over here from Neeb. Reaper gets a scout off on it, and it looks like the Adept may be able to zone out the Reaper. Yep, does manage to get it. He's going to be able to deny the scout over the main basin, deny the scout of the Stargate with the Oracle coming out. Now, of course, Semper, I think in the series versus Huck, we saw him really try and get out those first 2 medevacs with Liberator before really even worrying about that 3rd expansion. And, ooh, the Phoenix play. I actually really like this out of Neeb. I'm not sure if this is an adaptation because he knows Semper. Semper loves his drops. Because if it is, I really like it. Just saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to get out the fast Phoenix as a follow-up to the Oracle. Because, one, I'm going to be able to deal with the Liberator harassment that can happen. A very, very annoying thing on this map where you can get some really, really nice Liberator siege ups in good positions. You can see he's just waiting over here for those Liberators to move on in. He's getting up a second. Phoenix is probably going to be heading its way over to maybe the natural expansion, the 3rd expansion area. But if he does that, he can actually do a really, really nice job. This Starport, I guess, maybe a little bit out multitask right now, as he is a bit late and delayed on landing that over there and starting those first 2 medevacs. Does have a bit of a mineral and gas bank built up. That is one other weakness of Semper, is that he sometimes does get into the habit of prioritizing a lot of that harassment or moving around with the Liberator and being cute with his micro. and sometimes sort of loses track of some of his macros, some of the things that he maybe delays his medevacs from starting up for an extra 5 to 10 seconds. That could really make a big difference in terms of just getting a little bit more damage done. But look at this, 3 Phoenix already available. Liberator gets next to nothing done. I think maybe killed off 1 worker, I think we saw. Yeah, one worker so far. So not a whole lot working out over there for Semper so far. 3rd expansion is being built, or turning into an orbital command now. So Semper gonna try and eventually get that up, but I mean, granted, he went for that fast Liberator play. He didn't really get anything done. His first 2 medevacs are now out, but he's not really moving out with them. Finally, maybe thinking about moving out, but I really do feel like Semper invested in going for aggression, and nothing really worked out with it. So now you can see he's sitting very far behind on that working out. And yeah, you can say, oh, well, but mules for Terran players, but yeah, 15, 16 workers behind, that's a pretty substantial margin. There's even the Oracle still alive, can tag this army with Revelation, boom. How are you gonna make the drop harassment happen now? This is gonna be so much more difficult. Every single one of these units, including the medevacs, have been tagged. Of course, there are a couple more medevacs that have been that are out, and he can lift up these units into the medevacs and maybe try and maneuver around, clear the Revelation. I believe Revelation gets cleared off once the units make their way into the medevac or like a bunker or anything else that can load up. But Neeb is just in a solid position. He can play so much more greedy, and you can see he's doing exactly that. He's sitting on 2 sentries, has 13 adepts now out that are just kind of a safety defensive precaution, but he hasn't had to get up a ton of stalkers or anything to deal with multi-prong drops from all sorts of different angles, because he's got the Phoenix around. He's even taken out 7-minute 3rd or 4th expansion. This is pretty crazy. Neeb is just spiraling out of control of this economy and this greed. And Semper really hasn't been able to do anything to punish it. Semper's finally started to catch up a bit in that worker count, just because Neeb has halted production at 69 workers. You really don't want more than 69 workers. When you can start to get to like 70 plus workers as a Protoss player, you start to say, well, maybe that should go into army supply. Maybe I really don't need that many more units or workers, but bit of a questionable engagement over there for Semper, as he does decide to pick up and say, well, yeah, I guess you don't really have a lot of anti-air. What are your sentries going to tickle my medevacs to death? A couple of stalkers come back in to say, well, no, I got some anti-air now, but Semper... Oh, Semper going to have to deal with the Phoenixes that I think I actually forgot about, not going to lie. Going to easily be able to push this army back, and Semper retreats to the safety of those rocks where the army cannot follow, and he can unload safely and deal with those Phoenixes, but not a great spot right now for Semper, as that aggression once again not really working out. Maybe thinking about trying to put on some aggression off of these 3 bases. I feel like he has to, right? He's gotten a scout on that 4th expansion. He knows what he's up against. He knows that he's just going to be getting further and further behind. Even the disruptors are going to be coming out. And this is, again, another thing that I was saying I kind of wanted to see out of Huck was that disruptor play, because disruptors are something that, again, Semper has traditionally struggled with. I think that Semper has gotten a little bit better about it in the past like month or 2, since I would say I've really seen Semper extremely struggle with it. But is it really a solved problem? I'm not too sure. Only time is really going to tell. This is going to be the game that we really find out how exactly Semper deals with the drop harassment. Liberators may be moving around looking for either the Phoenix or a Warp Prism. I think the Warp Prism is, yeah, Warp Prism is sitting over here. And the Liberators are going to be able to find the Warp Prism, and at a good angle. I think he might be able to one-shot it, two-shot it, two-shot it. Boom, there it goes down. But here the army tries to move in. The double medevac trop tried to move in along that top left-hand side, but it looks like the army for Neeb was in position, scouts it out. It's going to be a bit out of position to deal with this army charging down the center. And is Semper going to be able to do a whole lot of damage before this army gets back into position? I'm not too sure. A handful of stalkers are going to be able to at least delay this a little bit. Another disruptor also in the mix. Semper moving out, and a big stasis trap traps out a lot of the ground army. That's a really nice trap for Neeb. Disruptor shot not going to be able to go off as Semper focus fires that one down, but now the main army is sitting over here at that 3rd expansion. Liberator is going to make it a very awkward spot to try and move down over here. This is starting to look a little bit better for Semper. These units come out of the stasis trap as well, as he just loses the last of the rest of his ground army. I just don't think that Semper really has enough, though. He's trying to engage this directly head on because he knows as soon as he unsieges these Liberators, the rest of the army comes barreling down that ramp, and he can't really afford to take that on. He needs those Liberators to continue to be sieged up over here, but he also needs to bait the rest of this army into the Liberator zones or move those Liberator zones gradually forward. Oh, big disruptor shot, and he doesn't split out. He loses all of his ground army, and this is what I was talking about. The big struggle for Semper. Looks like it's still maybe a bit of a struggle for him. I don't know if it was just that one disruptor shot that caught him off guard or what, but this is definitely not looking too good. Blink comes in from the backside. Liberators and get taken out from both sides. And it looks like Neeb is going to be able to clean up the entire army of Semper. Semper sitting down 40 army supply. He's trying to retreat desperately back. He's trying to get up a planetary fortress. I don't even know if the planetary fortress is going to finish up in time to defend against this army that's moving across the map. He's going to have to make do with what he has for at least a little bit of time. Get a bit of a pre-split. But here we go. Disruptor shots coming out. He's still just... this is what I'm talking about. Semper is not one of the players that splits. He's not one of the players that picks up his units in the medevacs. He's one of the players that just tries to run away. And that doesn't always work, especially if your reaction time is not incredibly on point, because those disruptor shots are faster than Stim Bio. Now, Neeb taking such a ridiculous advantage. When you have the army advantage, you have 2-2 finished up versus your opponent's 1-1. You have the tempo, you have the tech advantage with the Tempest coming out. You have the 4th expansion up, whereas your opponent's 4th expansion is looking very, or actually no, 5th expansion. 5th expansion is up, sorry. What does Semper have? In his series versus Huck, what he did in this situation was he dropped, but I think that he had a little bit more army supply to make it work, and he was able to pull Neeb back and buy himself time. Here we go. Double medevac drop comes in, but look at this. So many stalkers sitting back at home, ready and waiting to deal with it. So at the same time, the Tempest, the Disruptors continue to pick away at the army. I think that might be all she wrote for Semper. He just doesn't have anything left to his name. Continuing to take more losses to these disruptor shots, and now the rest of that army over here, guess what? What happens when this army moves back in to defend or to be aggressive? More disruptor shots, just obliterating that army. Neeb is showing why he's a literal god, ladies and gentlemen. He takes game number 1 in the winners semifinals. Alright, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not muted anymore. Oh, guess what? Oh, what a wonderful, wonderful world where I'm not muted. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hop into game number 2. I'm going to get the introduction started immediately because these guys got started immediately. Spawn down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. We have the blue Terran player from Team Ting and sitting up 1-0. Give it up for Neeb. And his opponent spawning down here in the bottom left-hand corner of Ruins of Endion. We have the purple Terran player from Team Gravity. It's Semper. Now, some quick things I need to talk about. First of all, I do apologize. What I was saying during the break that we just had, or right before the break, before I muted myself when we went to a break, was that we're going to be getting started into game number 2. But the other thing I want to talk about is an unbelievable, actually, well, no, I won't say unbelievable. I believed in him. A really, really cool guy. Peely, a man that I am a huge fan of, managed to beat Masa, of all people. One of the people who I think is a favorite to win the entire qualifier, potentially take out even Neeb, is an absolutely beast mode level Terran player. Peely just beat him in the round of 8 for the winners bracket. So he has moved on, as in the other semifinals, I believe the other winners bracket semifinals that we will probably end up casting as well. I believe that's being held for us. So do be on the lookout for that. I'm gonna really look forward to that. But a big shout out also to Reroll Dota. Thank you so much for subscribing, especially if you're like a Dota fan coming over to StarCraft. That makes me super happy, man. I'm actually a Dota fan myself. I was a big fan of Team Zephyr and everything. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this game. Let's talk about this series, because let's be real, Neeb kind of showed a bit of dominance over Semper in that last game. He held off all the harassment that Semper tried to throw at him without taking almost any damage whatsoever. He put on a bit of harassment of his own. Took some pretty good engagements. I think the one kind of thing that sort of went well was it looked like Semper had a nice little move in between the 5th and 4th expansions of Neeb and had some nice like Liberator siege ups and everything, but even then Neeb was able to take a good engagement just because he had just gotten so far ahead on the economy. It didn't really matter at that point. So I think that Semper's got a lot to prove to try and bring this back, and we're seeing once again Neeb just show out very early 3rd expansion. I wouldn't be too surprised to see him try and play this out fairly greedy once again. If you can hold off all the kinds of aggression that Semper tries to put on once again, I mean, does it really matter? It's almost like a Zest level thing where it's like if you just have the perfect defense against all kinds of drops, you can play unbelievably greedy and get away with it in this matchup. But you do have to have that kind of level of defense and be super prepared. In this game, we do end up seeing Neeb not going for that Stargate opening. He's going for a very fast blink play, chrono boosting it out, getting out of War Prism, maybe looking to get a bit more aggressive. Liberator comes in, Photon Overcharge gets it a little bit softened up, and there is another pylon over here that's gonna make it difficult for this Liberator to do a whole lot. Couple of Stalkers also getting in the mix, and Semper can maybe try and pick them off, set up a Liberator zone that just reaches only the Stalkers, not the mineral line, and the Stalkers won't quite be able to reach it. Just try and test Neeb's reflexes on that. So it's not entirely over just yet, but of course there is going to be the double Medivacs coming out. No, Medivac and a Viking coming out, and this is going to go quite well if he did see the robotics facility, maybe? Yeah, he saw the robotics facility, maybe anticipating that there could be a fast Warp Prism coming out at this stage. Because that is a really nice reason. Oh, 2 passing ships in the night, and here we go. Liberators, or sorry, the Medivacs on the chase over here as the Medivacs are going to be able to unload and kill off the Warp Prism. That's a really, really nice win for Semper, because that means that he doesn't have to worry about the aggression from Neeb almost at all. I mean, unless Neeb is going to try and blink his Stalkers up on the high ground, wait till Blink's off cooldown, blink his Stalkers all the way down, or try and move straight across the map. Semper is pretty much golden in terms of not really having to worry about any form of aggression from Neeb for a little bit. And he can just continue with the aggression on his own. This Liber now going to try and siege up a little bit further forward, maybe looking for opportunity to get some damage done. At the same time, trying to move in with the double Medivacs that, of course, Neeb saw earlier on. They saw him moving around with the Warp Prism. Of course, the cost was losing the Warp Prism, but you get to spot it out. 3rd expansion also coming down for Semper as well. So a little bit on the later side than Neeb, but not the worst thing in the world, I think. Of course, +1 weapons also being researched right now for Semper. So this is a nice thing. He's getting a bit of a jump on those upgrades compared to the last game, I think, where Neeb was just chrono boosting out the double forge upgrades, getting further and further ahead. I think he had 2-2 done before Semper actually even had +1, or +1 was just finishing up. So this game going to be going a little bit better for Semper, I would say. Even if he hasn't got a lot of damage done, he's kept Neeb very much at home and has given himself opportunities to maybe get a little bit more damage done. I think it's still not a totally ideal situation just because Semper is dealing with such an early 3rd from Neeb, but we'll see. Robotics Bay coming down. Neeb going to be getting out those Disruptors again, and Disruptors are one of those big problematic things for Semper. Well, Observer out over here for Neeb. Of course, did see the timing of the 3rd and everything. I think we saw that earlier on, but it is a bit more of a passive game. A lot of army movement around the map, a lot of scouting, a lot of vision coming down, but not a lot of big direct engagements or a lot of big harassment coming out. Even that Liberator is just kind of sitting back there idly, waiting for his opportunity, his moment to shine. Where is the Mothership Core? Mothership Core probably sitting in the main base. That's generally where Protoss players, keep their Mothership Core, just because they're always paranoid after they take their 3rd, their 4th expansions. They're just always thinking, oh god, as soon as I try and move out and trying to keep my army by that 3rd or the 4th, my opponent is just going to move straight into my main base. That's going to be the big doom drop, and you want that Mothership Core over there to throw down the Photon Overcharges. But Semper is really struggling to make a whole lot of damage happen. Even the rocks knocked down. I'm sort of surprised that Semper isn't trying to maybe try and knock down the rocks so he can at least walk in and get some damage done. Couple of the Adepts moving in with a Warp Prism that did manage to sneak its way all the way around the map, just barely, I think, through all of these Marines that are scattered around for Semper as a scouting. But Adepts all get taken out. Gets a little bit of damage done. Not a ton. Oh, actually, no, a lot of damage getting done because he has more of these Adepts that shade over to the natural expansion. Gets up to 16 workers killed. Now it's 40 to 70 workers, and mules be damned. That's a big difference in the economy right now, especially with the 4th expansion now finished up over here for Neeb. Gonna be taking out these rocks, and both of them, Neeb even helping out Semper a little bit with taking out those rocks. just saying, well, let me speed that up so that I can take out the remaining rocks and come through a little bit safer. Immortal's going to be adding in a lot of damage. He's got to take out both of these, though. He does not want to move through an awkward choke point like that. And Semper, once again, has not really had an opportunity to get a lot of damage done with his own forms of harassment. I feel like this is probably the golden opportunity to do it. You load up a medevac and just kind of use these liberators and try and defend off of better engagements, positioning. But that's not going to happen. Neeb knocks down the rocks on the backside, and he gets into a very good position over here. And now the Liberators not really going to be in a good enough position. The Disruptor shots are going to be able to zone out this army as they try and move through the choke. One of the Disruptors does get taken out, so Semper going to find a little bit of relief in that. But this other Disruptor shot almost halfway off of cooldown. Going to be very, very ready soon. Big blink forward. He's going to be able to get some good damage on some force fields, even trapping in a bit of this army. Disruptor shot should be available, and there it is. Not getting a whole lot, but I think another Disruptor comes in the mix. It is off of cooldown, but I just think it's just too much. +2, +1 versus +1, +1. Neeb takes the game and the series, moving on to the winners finals. And the literal god Neeb shows there are no surprises over here. He moves on as expected, undefeated, to the winners finals, the qualifying match for IEM Shanghai North American Passport qualifiers. And a big congratulations goes out to him for that. For Semper, not entirely out of it yet just yet. He's going to be moving down to the losers bracket, where we still have quite a few very, very good players, including Masa, who I think a lot of people are still very surprised to see in losers bracket this early on. Losers bracket matches that I'm aware of are still going on are Huck versus Juggernaut Jason, Jon Snow versus Ray Rain, since Jon Snow did manage to beat Panda Bear Me. I think a bit of a surprise, as that is Panda Bear Me, a very, very solid player these days, and has gotten a lot of talk. Ray Rain, one of those up-and-coming players. Masa, of course, playing versus Suppy right now, since Suppy had beat No Regret. And, of course, Creature got the default bye over Scarlet, who was not able to make it today, and is playing versus Rough as we speak. Peely Peely versus Puck, I believe, is going to be the other match at Awesome PvP. Peely Peely, Puck, PvP, Protoss. So many P's in that. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be hopping into that as soon as the game is ready. All right, let's message the players and let them know. Invite for you versus Puck. Oh, they're already sitting in a lobby. Actually, oh yeah, I have this awesome thing where I'm friends with some of the players, are real ID friends, so I can just join off of them. I don't even have to ask for the invite. You think you're ready? I am ready. So, hey. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna hopping into a PvP for the other side of the winners semifinals. Of course, the losers bracket is all being broadcasted by Wordy as well as Nathanius. After we finish up the losers semis and the winners, the winners semis and the winners finals, we find out who the first qualifying player is. Then we're going to move over to the losers bracket, play a little bit of catch up. But of course, if there are any other matches that you want to see played, go over to Wordy's channel. There's a good chance it's being casted over there or on Nathanius' stream. I think about half of the matches are being broadcasted at any given moment now, because I think there's one match happening in the winners bracket right now, and there's 4 in the losers. So I guess a little bit less than half, since there's 3. Yeah, so there's 5. Actually, no, a little bit more than half. Oh god, Peely Peely's saying he has a 40% win rate right now in PvP. That's not ideal. But all right. Oh, and it does seem like Take TV is back. So I will say, if you want to check out the foreign language stream, we got Take TV back at you in broadcasting. I think he's looking to cast Huck versus Jason if they haven't started yet, or Suppy versus Masa. But I'm ready when Puck is. Yeah, we'll begin started whenever they. Oh yeah, let me actually update this overlay. Puck versus Peely. I do want to take this as an opportunity, since first of all, we're hopping into a PvP, which is obviously the best mirror matchup that exists. Just gonna put that out there because there's nobody here to argue with me. But of course, BaseTradeTV and Rifkin and Zombie Grub agree with me because they are hosting a really, really awesome tournament thanks to the wonderful mod, that nice username, one of the most fantastic people in the community and one of the most awesome and sometimes underrated content creators out there, has made a mod that is going to be used for the BaseTradeTV Civil War contest. What it is going to be a team of 3 Protoss players playing versus another team of 3 Protoss players. And it's not going to be like Pro League style or all kill style. In fact, instead there's a big board format. So you have a game board and the players will move around on the game board each turn. I think they have like a movement and an action or something like that, something along those lines. It's all more descriptive explanation inside of the Team Liquid thread. There's like a video that explains it all. Zombie Grub does a nice little voiceover for it. Our players will move around and they can actually fight each other if they try and move onto their opponent's tile. And the way that you win is you try and capture your opponent's capital, or if you try and take a majority of the board. You have to take 12 tiles on this board. I think that's like 16 or something tiles. So it's 2 different kind of win conditions. A really, really cool thing. But the most important thing is Nice Username worked on this fantastic mod that actually allows you to use either the Tal'Darim or the traditional Protoss skins. So one team is always going to be using the Tal'Darim skins, the other team is always going to be using these like the traditional Protoss skins. So it's going to be very, very clear, very, very cool. You have like the Void Rays that have like green beams and stuff. I think the Sentries have like red beams. It looks fantastic. Nice Username really did a fantastic job with it. But do check that out. Again, if maybe we can get some wonderful people in the chat to like link the Team Liquid thread, that'd be awesome. I think Puck might be AFK. I got some gummy vitamins while we wait. Oh, there he is. Puck's here. And there we get started. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hop into the map intro as I eat these gummy vitamins. We'll see you guys in game number 1 of our other winners semifinals.